Say, be very sure that the market is willing to pay for what you're offering. You might have something that is way better. Like you can build a car with 5 wheels and it will be absolutely unique. But does anybody want a car with 5 wheels? And then that's when I started to go back to the idea of smart power distribution, an idea I had 20 years earlier, I would say, almost. And I did like a short presentation of what and why. So we thought, yay, we did it. But the next 12 months was very difficult. And we didn't know. We had very little clue about how to manufacture things effectively. And we had no crew. We sold product to, I think, getting near 40 countries now, including the Maldives, North Vietnam.
Hey, just before we jump into the show, got a little favour to ask you. If you enjoy listening to our podcast, please make sure you are subscribed on the platform of your choice. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever platform that might be. The more people who subscribe and the more people who like and rate the show, the more we give you an opportunity to have some great takeaways. It doesn't take you too long, and it would be a great help to us to help us grow the show. For now, that's it. Enjoy today's recording. So, welcome, Mats, to the Business Takeaway podcast. Great to have you on. Thank you for joining us today. So, can you just give a bit of introduction to people, who you are, the background of your company, what you do, and how you got here today?
Yeah. Well, as I sometimes say, I started from the top and worked my way down. I was in a band, played drums, and when the band folded like they usually do in your late teens, me and a couple of other guys took care of the sound system and started helping other bands with sound, PA company. And then another guy joined us who had lighting, and we realized lighting was a lot more fun. So we sold up all the audio gear and became a bigger lighting company. And I did that until mid-90s, when it was getting very, very expensive to do lighting rental, because everybody needed moving lights, and you couldn't do it with 4, you needed 50. So me and my business partner at the time said, okay, we'll stop here. And we sold off the equipment we had, and I joined a prominent wholesale distribution company in Sweden called Light. And I was there sort of head of sales to professional customers for close to 10 years. And during that time, I started to dabble with a bit of product development. So I sort of got the product development bug, if you like. Probably something I have from my father, because he was a product developer. And I had other ideas that I presented to my then boss, and he was like, nah, we're a distribution company. We shouldn't get involved in manufacturing. It's far too messy. I didn't realize how true that was, of course. So eventually I started to make inquiries among, industry friends if there was something else going on that I could maybe be a part of. And Mike Wood, who was running Gem smoke machines for a long time, said, if you hear of somebody who needs somebody like me, let me know. And he said, well, actually, I'm talking to Barker. Would you be interested in having a discussion with them? What do you say? Yeah. So about 4 months later, I was hired. Long process. We won't go into that. And no sooner had I been hired, I think it was my first week in Belgium. My boss told me, oh, okay, we have to go to Dallas this weekend to negotiate with PRG. Oh, okay. Can I join? Yeah, do you want to? Yeah, of course I do. Yeah. And that led to an experience that it was not like unreal. We were 3 or 4 guys from Belgium. And then there were probably 5 or 6 guys from PRG. And I sat at this huge Texas-sized conference table. To the right of me sits Jerry Harris. At the end of the table sits Rusty Boucher. Along the other side of the table sits all these legendary developers, Jim Bornhorst and I can't remember all the names now, but I was like, I'm in the same room as these legends. It was really like, wow. So these guys invented the industry as we know it today. You couldn't go out and buy a PA system. You have to buy plywood and drivers from JBL. So then I thought, okay, what to do? And I got a call from David Leggett at AC Entertainment, who I've known for many, many years. And he asked me to come to see him. And he said, I want to find somebody who can help me get the Chroma Q brand better known in Europe. So I had a 12 months contract with them, but it was very, very difficult. So after about 10 months, David said, it's not going to work. I'll still pay you for 12 months, but, this clearly doesn't work, And then that's when I started to go back to the idea of smart power distribution, an idea I had 20 years earlier, I would say, almost. And I did a short presentation of what and why and so on. And I took it around to various power distribution companies outside entertainment. I said, guys, you know how to build power distribution. You have access to all the parts at the right prices and so on. I know a market that you're not currently covering. Would you like to be part of this? And some of them thought about it. Others said, no. If this was such a market, we would have heard about it. Oh, okay. So eventually me and another guy here in Sweden, Eric Davidson, who I had collaborated with on other things. He's a brilliant engineer, fabulous designer. So we decided to develop this ourselves, which we did over the next year and a half in his basement of his house. And then we thought, well, we better launch something now. And that was December of 2017, 2016. We should do it at Pro Light and Sound. And we found another exhibitor who was willing to share their stand with us. So we did. And we sold some product on the stand, despite our products being, at the time, almost twice the price of a bog standard distro. And so we thought, yay, we did it. But the next 12 months was very difficult. And we didn't know. We had very little clue about how to manufacture things effectively. And we had no crew. We eventually found a couple of guys who was willing to join us on the manufacturing side. But it wasn't until the following autumn in 2018 when we got an external investor coming in to take a third of the company. So we got some capital. And then it has started to go really, really well. And then COVID hit, of course. So we were down during most of 2020. But already in beginning 2021, we got a big comeback. We got a massive order for the World Expo in Dubai.
Which was delayed in the end, which was actually delayed as well, wasn't it? So
yeah, that's why we got it, because the company in question, a big German supplier, they said, oh, we need 55 of these, 11 of these, and we need them in so much time. And we thought, well, shouldn't be a problem. And then we hit the whole supply chain. It was some murder. We had to go and buy on the open market components at sometimes 3 times the price. Stupid things like circuit breakers or whatever, and connectors, a connector supply that couldn't supply. And this is a massive connector supply. I won't mention the name. Well, can't you build them? We don't have the material. What material? The raw plastic which we mold the connector inserts. And sure, there must be an alternative. No. So we had to sort of vacuum the market, and we eventually found enough connectors.
So where is Station Marts today then, as an organization? From, you said 2016 you launched, it's now coming out to 10 years, 10-year birthday this year, right? So
yeah,
it's been through a lot of changes, right?
The company was founded in 2015, but we didn't launch until 2017. So you could say we're roughly 10 years. Today we are in 2 locations. I'm in the south of Sweden near Malmö, where we have the marketing, sales, business management. And then in Arboga, which is where my original partner Eric lived at the time, found a very inexpensive location. So we moved in there in good timing, early 2020, tripled our lease cost. And no sooner than like 2 months later, we had to let go of more than half the crew up there, skeleton crew, but it is what it is. We are in total now, I think, 16 people.
Selling distribution around the world to multiple different venues.
Yeah, we've sold
events.
We've sold product to, I think, getting near 40 countries now. Yeah, including the Maldives, North Vietnam, or just called Vietnam, I guess, these days. The Maldives.
Who knew when from an outback in Sweden you'd be selling products to the Maldives, right? In today's world, I mean, the entertainment sector has changed. You talk about the early days of moving lights; it's massively. So, what do you see now as sort of like the biggest challenges or the opportunities for Station Marts in the future?
Well, we've not yet gone into North America. That's easily between 1/3 and one or half of the world usage. The downside with North America is that they have a completely different electrical systems. So I don't expect us to have anything ready to sell over there for quite a while, but we are certainly looking at it.
Obviously, you talk about North America, but what other, now your systems are being used or electrical distributions being used for LED screens and stuff that 5 years ago that it wouldn't have been powered, or certainly 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been powered for?
I haven't made a check recently, but a couple of years ago, I looked at all we have sold since we started. And my looking at which companies and what they do, I would say 70% of the distributors we have delivered are used to power LED screens. Because if you get a fault with the power on the LED screen, it's extremely visible. Yeah. If half a truss of lights goes out, well, that's not good, but it's not going to stop the show. And the cost of repairing an LED screen, and even if it's possible, is huge. And you can't do the gig the next day or even 2 days after. And unless you're a very, very big operator, you don't have, 500 LED panels spare that you can bring out. So, and that's something that the LED companies have realized. Our first sale of distros, first major sale distro was to Universal Pixels in the UK. And they've taken on our product in a big way. They bought 8 new of our third generation racks for the Oasis tour and the Robbie Williams tours this last summer. And, they see the value. They see the value in because if something goes wrong, let's say you're mid-sized company doing a city festival in Stuttgart or whatever, and suddenly the screen doesn't work. The promoter comes up, what's wrong with the screen? Well, the power is fucked up, so we've lost half the screen here. Next year, he's not going to call you because you're the company with the screen that didn't work. It wasn't your fault, but that's what they'll remember. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad to see the slowly but surely people's understanding of electricity is increasing. When we launched in 2017, one of our competitors had said to a customer, who in turn told us that this Swedish company, why are they doing these things? It's completely unnecessary. It's like saying seatbelts in the car. What's that thing? If I am about to crash, I'll throw myself out the door.
But I think production, it brings back to that production quality and production values, right? You go and see, a friend of mine was talking to me about the fact he took his wife and 2 daughters to go and see Taylor Swift, and it cost him the cost of a family holiday. It was $2,000. And if you look at the Taylor Swift set, most of it's LED screen. So her show wouldn't be the show without the LED screen and her swimming underneath and all these things that I've seen. So if that fails, as you said, it's the production's responsibility, and then also it's Taylor Swift, and she has 500,000 or 1,000,000 to refund to customers, and all the nightmare from all that side. So it's an important thing that people, as you said, it's the seatbelt, it's the car. We wouldn't get in a car without using a seatbelt. So why would you do this, right?
Yeah, and the more sort of macro thing about this is that today the tours are what makes them money. They're not making any money on recorded music. That's advertising. You have to. And people expect something wow.
So, but yeah, we you talk about this daily with the people in the industry, right? The day when you could release a CD, make your millions off CD, and perhaps do one headline gig at one festival because that's what you wanted to do is gone. It's the you've got to go and work the album. You look at Coldplay. I know Coldplay's not everyone cup of tea and everything, but you go into Coldplay, they've done a 3-year world tour with breaks, fine, but because they need to go and earn that money. So it's an interesting time. So you talk about the things struggling, COVID. We're 5 years on from COVID, but you talk about taking on the new premises, taking on staff, and then it all going wrong. How did you how were you feeling at that time? How did you sort of react to that, and how did you deal with that?
Well, of course we were very worried, but to be honest, it wasn't like I went, "Oh, we're done for." It was more like, "Okay, what can we do? What must we do?" And so, I mean, our biggest cost at the time was staff, but and we let them go. We gave them notice mid-March, and most of them were willing to stay on until the end of April to finalize that big order for the Dubai Expo. And thanks for that Dubai Expo order, I wouldn't say we were flush with cash, but we weren't didn't have a cash flow problem at the time. So that was very lucky for us. And some of the guys, to their credit, said the guys that we had to let go said, "Well, if you need some help with something further on here, let me know. I'm willing to come in and work for free if necessary." That was fantastic, yeah. And those guys are still with us, and some of our most valued staff. And there was most of 2020 was quite slow, and towards the end of 2020 we decided to bring out a budget version of our small 12 and 24 channel systems, something we had contemplated earlier, but we said, nah, that's not us. But we did, and it sold well, and it helped us over the hump, let's say. And yeah.
We were talking before we hit the record button about adversity and what makes you stronger and what comes out the other side from it. And like, I think those opportunities, as you said, the Dubai, which just fell on your lap or fell in at the time of COVID, it sets you up a different way. Perhaps it goes a different route to what you're planning or a different way of looking at things, but it gives you that opportunity to move forward, right? And that's a good place. But when did you feel like coming out of? When did you sort of feel like COVID? Because COVID timeline for people are different. There are some people who COVID timeline was done by the September 20 and they returned to normal. And when did you feel sort of like COVID got out of your world and it wasn't a talking? I mean, we're talking about 5 years on, but when was it not a talking point for you?
Well, fourth quarter of 2020, October, November, I don't remember exactly because it's all a blur now, but I felt that, it's probably not going to be, half the population will die because there was a lot of effort into finding out what this virus was doing and how we could counteract it and so on. Sweden, difference to a lot of other countries in Europe, I wouldn't say we didn't take it seriously. We did, but we had a different view on it. We didn't have empty streets in major cities. People were wearing masks, yes, but generally speaking, people went to work, and a lot of people worked from home, of course. But it wasn't like ghost towns here.
But when did you feel like coming out of COVID? Obviously, in the lighting industry, the entertainment industry, Station Marts is well known now. When did you sort of start to feel that, hey, all this hard work that you have put in, gone through COVID, laid people off? When did you start to feel that people are taking notice of what you're doing and how it's working?
I mean, we generally had very good reception at all the trade shows we've done since 2017. The real boost came in early 2021 when we got substantial orders for our then biggest system, a 72-way called the C72. We got orders for 8 from this film studio. We had orders for 4 and 6, and so it seems that product filled the gap in the market, and we couldn't build them fast enough. And at the Eurovision Song Contest here in Sweden, was not last year but the year before, they had 2,268 channels of Station Marts distribution to power lighting and video. And so I have pictures of, a row of 36 racks backstage. That was quite something.
And to see it on Eurovision is hit and miss for some people. Some people think it's the most awful thing ever. Some think it's brilliant. I've got friends who have Eurovision parties every year. So, I don't want we Brits, even though we get 0 points most of the time, we do go for it. But to get it on something like Eurovision, that's a sort of big industry known. It's a big it's the sort of thing everyone knows about Eurovision, right?
Yeah, we've done a large number of these, what they call it, VR studios around the world. Yeah, NAND studios in Australia. I'm not sure it's still the biggest because they keep building these things, but I think that was one of our single biggest orders. Our distributor in Australia, Show Technology, sent through this order for, okay, we need 14 of these, 8 of these, 10 of these. And we go, where's this going? Can't tell you. Yeah, that's frustrating sometimes. You don't know where the stuff ends up. But it seems the TV film industry in Europe is growing, although as that industry and that market keeps growing.
And do you see that sort of technology, if you'd said to people probably pre-COVID, like VR, virtual TV studios, people would have been like, oh, it's a green screen, all that, but it's going far, far deeper than that. And do you see that's a sort of big area where you see Station Marts going in?
I'm not sure it affects us because ultimately we're just a means to distribute the power needed. We can't really affect how they're filming and so on. But obviously, how our products are packaged, the sizes of them, and how they can be controlled can have an impact on it. Can be like noise sensitive situations where they want to be able to, with a button, using network technology, be able to switch off all the fans in the equipment temporarily for a very quiet scene or something like that. And honestly, I see the theatrical market as a big growth area worldwide, but at the moment, particularly so in Europe. But in Germany alone, there are 900 theaters, state-funded theaters, and they're all running on tungsten lamps. Even if they didn't want to, they are forced by law to change because of the energy system. I only heard of one theater I think it was in the UK somewhere, where they had a dispensation for this because it was, what do you call it when something is heritage or something like that? Yeah. So they will say, okay, great. Where are you going to find the spare lamps eventually? Yeah, we're hamstering now. We're buying all we can so we can last 20 years.
Stockpiling it up.
Stockpiling it up, yeah, exactly. So I think the theatrical market, and another good point about the switch from halogen to tungsten is that from tungsten to LED is from a drama teacher said, we don't want our people to climb up ladders and burn their fingers on hot lamps. We don't even want them to go up there and focus. We want to have LED lights that we can remote control. It's a liability for us.
So I without probably the school probably didn't. I mean, it's 30 years ago, right? So 40 years ago, whatever. But I first started in theatre, working in theatre. I would go up at school unsupervised. So my drama teacher would let us have the keys to the theatre into the night. No teachers around, no nothing. A group of 14, 15-year-old boys up ladders. And we used to have a scaffolding tower. If my mother's listening to this, she'll have a near heart attack. We used to have a scaffolding tower that we'd pull ourselves along at the top. Quite often we'd get it onto two wheels. And we were like probably 7 meters in the air playing with electricity, didn't have a clue. I'm still here. Nobody died. Nobody's died. But now when I went back to the school, they've got a tension wire grid. They've got the pupils don't go up and do any focusing. They do everything from the floor. They've got some bridges so they can go and do that. But it's a very different world of health and safety and what schools are allowed. And it's I would have been a health and safety liability. Some might say I still am, but that's what it is, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I had a small rental company. I couldn't afford to hire riggers, so I went up and down, little lifts for better part of 20 years and climbed around trusses. No protection gear whatsoever. And I'm definitely not proud. I was so stupid to do that, but it wasn't the norm. Same as we didn't have seatbelts in cars until the mid 60s or something.
Absolutely. And I now look back and go, God, I wouldn't do that now. But then I've got more of a self-preservation bit to my life than anything else. But we touched on sort of like the VR studios and things. Where do you see, there's two parts to this question. Where do you see technology moving in our industry? But where also do you see technology in your business moving? We talked about, again, off air or start the recording, you said like we're in 40 countries, we're selling in 40 countries. That business model now is very quickly send an email to somebody, have a quick Teams call, whatever. How do you see technology moving and helping your business grow?
Well, obviously, lighting fixtures and video screens are getting ever more energy efficient, less power. Does that mean that shows will draw less power? Possibly. I think possibly say, oh, we have power to spare. Let's add 200 more lights or 200 more square meters of screen. But it also, the more equipment you have plugged in, the bigger the need to supervise it all. And being able to alert an operator or a technician about something. If you don't take care of this now, it's going to cause something very bad, So they can maybe unplug a few things to avoid the breaker tripping and so on. And in our latest generation products, we even have earth leakage measuring every single circuit. And we also have other nice features, so we can actually. I would expect by the end of this year, the distributor be able to tell you should probably move these loads to another phase, or you should probably check that fixture because it's behaving strange. Yeah. So intelligent distros, basically. I'm not saying we're going to do some sort of AI implementation, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
For 34 minutes in the first mention of AI. Do you use AI in the business? Do you know where is the business? You talked. It's moved a long way, even probably since when you started in 2016. What tools are you using to help you?
Personally, I'm not using any AI tools. I know our marketing people use it to run through a text and say, well, you should probably rephrase that and so on. And sometimes I think, no, it was fine the way it was, because AI, the challenge with our industry is that it's tiny. It's really tiny, our industry. I mean, I don't remember exactly the number, but I saw something, how much is Live Nation's global ticket turnover. And it was like, yeah, that'll buy you one jumbo jet. It's not that big. And because of that, there's really no statistics on how much is being spent. Yeah. If you ask somebody, well, we've been asked many times from potential investors, okay, so how much is the global power distribution market then? And it's like a wet finger in the air. Okay, and in Germany, okay, so how many of this size, how much does your competitors turn over? And we said, we can't find out. I can ask them, but they have no obligation to tell us, which scares some of them off. But we have a group of investors in our company now that are really understanding. Most of them have a industry background. One is even a very famous artist, rock star. But he said, yeah, I'll put in $1 million. But It's very hard.
As you said, we're a small industry, so there isn't the, we get approached in my business about data analytics companies and things like that, but that they're looking at the big part of the business and my day job rather than the smaller part that I'm in, and it's getting that data is really hard. It's really,
Yeah,
really hard. But it's
yeah.
also business intelligence is so important to what you're doing and what you need to do to grow, right?
What we realized uh, is that what really pays off for us, I'm not saying it's the way for everyone to do it, is go and meet the customer face to face. Spend 2 days in that country, 3 days in that country. And one of my colleagues is doing it this week in Croatia. He's already gotten orders. He didn't expect to get any orders, and they've introduced him to other potential customers, and it trickles on. And you can't shove products in the face of the distributors. Hey, you should take 10 of those, 20 of those, 30 of those, and then he doesn't start rolling out their door quick enough, and they get really nervous about things. And I think it's a very difficult industry because the end user, the production company doing the tour, or the promoter, they always, I mean, Elton John can sell out a world tour 12 months ahead, but they don't issue the contracts for the production like 2 months ahead. Why? Oh, it'll be cheaper than if I go late. No.
No, and I think today's world also, we've got all this technology. You and I are meeting now on Zoom. You're in Sweden. I'm in the UK, and I think also we forget the face-to-face bit. Right? There's a big international trade show coming up in a couple of weeks for us, and actually, I'm just looking forward to meeting people and talking to people face-to-face, because you can have so much easier conversations. Then for you get a relationship, and business development. Our industry is so much built on relationships. It's not just wham, sell you something, sell, move on. You've got to get that relationship piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was discussing with our chairman the other day about what will be my role going forward. And said, I'd like to do pre-biz development, just hooking up with potential customers. I'm not going to pitch you. I'm just going to tell you what we are about and what we have done, and so on. And if maybe down the line you need something good in power distribution, you give me a call, and then I put them in touch with the person who is actually involved in business development and sales. So I don't come across as vacuum cleaner salesperson.
Yeah, and that you never know, right? You give somebody a business card, you never know when that phone call, that sort of type
Yeah,
thing
exactly.
might come.
You have to sort of, talent scouting in a bit.
Yeah. So, question on like you're talking about your role change and looking at things. How do you think as the business has changed? How do you think you have changed as a person? So you started it, as I said, with one other person. 2015, 2016. How do you think you have changed as a person through that journey? With the pitfalls, COVID, waking up to find no business, how do you think that's changed you?
A very good question. How it changed me. I think in recent years, in the past year or two, I've been able to sort of slow down quite a bit, and become more thoughtful about what we're doing and so forth. Initially, it was manic, of course, as it always is. I've always been a somewhat manic, impatient person as well. Well, I think my greatest strength, if I have any, is I can see opportunities, and I can scribble down an idea how to take advantage of that opportunity, and I can hand it over to somebody who can maybe realize it. I'm an electronics engineer by training, but I couldn't do anything for Stage Marts electronics now because it's all digital and stuff. The only thing I'm fairly good at is audio electronics. That's my hobby.
And I know, so that time, is that giving you times to reflect and sort of just see how you have adapted in that period of time as well? Is that allowed you to do that?
I think so. I mean, the more people you add to an organization, each time you add somebody, it changes the organization. And what I've sort of about a month ago. So, the company has grown up now. It's like kids leaving the home. You know, I'm not drastically needed. I could be run over by a bus tomorrow, and it would still run. And same as with kids. I mean, I have 3 kids in their 20s, and if I tell them you shouldn't do this, they should that, they could say I sewed off for and it could be right, and it's like you have to let go. You have to take off the training wheels at some point.
And do you think? I mean, that sort of. If you could see the question I wanted to ask next, that's a great segue into it. But do you feel your leadership changed when you start a business? And I've done that myself. You're very much in the weed. You're in the day to day. And I read something a few months ago about the perfect leader is somebody who can take themselves out of the business and it's not affected. So that's a testament to you, right? That the business has grown and you don't need to be doing what you were doing 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 2 years ago, whatever.
Yeah, no, what I've learned, because I never had, I was never in a role in my past career where I had responsibility for staff. So that was a bit of a learning curve. And having spoken to most of our guys fairly recently, they say, no, you're a good leader, Why? You listen. You take what I say seriously. You might not agree with me, but you take the time to listen. Now made me feel really good.
And I think that's a good leader, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because as an employee, you feel if your boss listens to you, that's the first stage.
I had a boss, I won't mention who, but I had a boss in the past who, and anytime something went wrong and I fucked up, because you always fuck up sometimes, he got really cross with me and things. And then eventually I learned and I closed some rather large deals, and he didn't say anything. And one day I got so pissed, I said, listen, why is it that every time I do something wrong, you scream at me, whatever. But I would do something really great. I pull in a bigger order. You don't say anything. Well, if I don't say anything, it's good. Okay.
That's not very motivating, right? You need to, because you need the pat on the back, and everyone's different. Everyone is very different how they react, but you do want to know you're doing a good job.
We have an internal chat thing at work. I think it's a Google chat, where this morning my colleague Tristan is down in Croatia now, seeing customers, closing deals, and he mentioned that he had done this deal. And so everybody chimes in and says, hey, great work, Tristan. Excellent. So, you have to have a little pep talk. And some people don't need it. Some people crave it. You have to adapt to what people want.
I think also we've got internal WhatsApp and things like that, and you turn around and go, well, if you're in these remote roles, which we all are, my team is spread from northern Sweden to south, Saudi Arabia area. It can be very demoralizing if you're just that one person walking the streets, or pounding the rental houses, pounding the customers, and you get a sale, and you want to share that news. It's a good thing to keep everyone motivated. So
yeah, I had another experience of this where we had a customer who had a big issue with the product we had supplied, and we were getting nowhere with the manufacturer. So in the end, I said to my boss, listen, I'll have to go down there to the manufacturer, which is in the Netherlands, and sort this out. And we went there for 2 days. We sorted out the problem. I communicated with our customer, and he was happy. And then as I got in my car to drive back to the airport, I called my boss and said, we sorted this out now. And oh, great, fantastic. But hurry back now, because I have to take all your sales calls when you're away. That was actually the point where I started thinking about moving on.
Yeah.
And eventually came to Barco.
Yeah. So when you're running over the last 10 years, what's the things that have kept you up at night? The things when you want to switch off, done with the day, shut the laptop, done the emails. What's the things that you couldn't switch off from that have been the worst sort of cases of, this might go wrong? I mean, obviously COVID's the big one, right? We can't ignore the big COVID bit.
But I think with COVID, we were all in the same boat. What has haunted me the most is it was the supply chain problem, because we had then massive orders. They're not going to move the Dubai Expo, for example, if we can't find the connector inserts. It's things like that, and sometimes really silly bits are missing, but there's only one supplier in the whole world for this part, and they don't have it. And disappointing customers, I guess, is the. I don't want to disappoint customers. I don't want to have customers who say, "Oh, Stage Marts, yeah, great products, but they can't support me," or whatever, something like that. I hate disappointing people.
And our business is so built on reputation, our personal reputation as much as
Yeah, yeah,
our business reputation, right?
yeah. Because it's I think the most important thing that you, me, everybody has is our personal standing in the industry. We all know people who moved on from company to company and fucked up everywhere. Eventually, nobody's going to touch them. And there's people who seem to move on from top job to top job and go, "Wow, he must be really good." Well, probably he doesn't disappoint people. He takes his job seriously, and if he tells the customer, "I'm sorry, it can't be done," that's the truth.
And I think the personal brand, you touch on it a bit. The personal brand is massive, right? It's how you come across on social media, how you're seen at the it's a 24/7 job, doing the job, and then the personal part as well, right?
Yeah, no, and I think both you and me and most of the people we know, they use social media and other things to. They don't think, "Oh, okay, I have to go online now and boost my personal brand." You just share things that you think are relevant, without getting into stuff like religion and politics. But I'm sure there's a few people in my network who could find this interesting and learn from it, and that's what you do. You try to be a good citizen.
It's been going 10 years now. If we talked about again off recording about the things you wish you knew and things like that, right? But what would you now, if you knew what you knew now, what would you do differently back in 2016?
I'd probably persist in finding a manufacturing partner, an experienced company who could build the products for us, because I feel Stage Marts is primarily a development company. We specify and we find the right parts, and we build a prototype or a first zero series, as I say. And if that works out well, meets specifications, handles all these certifications, I'd like to just push that to an external partner, and we tell them, "All right, you build 50 of these a month." Because the whole manufacturing side, with staff, people being off sick, supply chain problems, it's just, oh, it's horrible. Now, at least in the company now, we have a very competent factory manager, and we have a good head of operations. So that's taking a huge bit of stuff off my chest. But I mean, I had to call around. "Oh, could you possibly find 200 of this or this or this?" And nightmare.
I don't envy the supply chain management, especially
No.
during COVID. The supply chain managers are trying to find this many screws, this many things. I mean, it is a work of art, right?
Yeah, and in the past you could kind of wing it and say, "Well, we use this size screw instead." Now, if you put in the wrong screw or the wrong label, your certification is gone. You know.
What do you think you focused on at the start that you don't think now matters? Do you know what I mean? Were you really hung up on like, I really need to get the branding right, or I really need to get this right, and actually you go, well, actually in the hindsight that doesn't matter anymore? Or do you think do you think there aren't cases like that with you?
Well, you mentioned branding, and branding, I think, is still hugely important. The more commoditized an industry gets, the more importance the brand has. The reason why we call Stage Smarts rather than Stage Power is that initially Rick and I had ideas for various things, underserved areas of stage technology, but we realized we had to focus on something that could give us, decent revenues quite early on. So we let go of those things and just continue with power. I think our branding and our decision to go for a more upmarket look and feel has helped us a lot. Because if we're going to ask between 50 and 75% more money for X amount of channels on a distro, it better look the part.
People believe in quality. People believe the quality behind the brand.
Yeah, we had a guy who came up to us at Product and Sound, I think in the third year or something, and touched one of our distros and said, "Oh, can I give you some help?" So, no, it's just beautiful. This must be the Porsche of distros, he said. He walked on. And somebody said, "Oh, no, I could never afford anything like this." But honestly, it doesn't cost more money to make something that looks proper. If I look at some of my competitors, and won't mention the names, but out of 50 distros, the same size, the same spec, they look different. And there's stickers on it, slightly askew and bits like that. And I thought, don't you have any pride? Pride in workmanship. And then I've challenged a couple and they go, the customer doesn't care, you know? It's not relevant. It's not relevant. As long as I have that sticker on it saying tested by so-and-so, it's okay. But actually, I think they do care. And I asked Phil Mercer at Universal Pixels several years back, I said, your distros look nice. And if we have nice looking distros at the side of the stage and the artist comes to do the show and he has his manager with him, they see everything is in good order here. The cables are neatly lined up and it does make a difference.
It does.
Yeah. It's the whole overall, feel.
And this industry has, the rock and roll industry from the 60s and 70s, we've grown up as an industry, but it is that professional feel. We're a professional industry. So the performing area is a professional area. So it should look professional and should look smart, right? So if you can put that as part of your business towards that, that's going to help with everyone working on that show, isn't it?
And another point that it's easy to miss is when we launched back in 2017, there were really not one multi-country brand of distros. You have companies in the UK supplying the UK market, France companies, Italy, Germany. They did some export, but it was a tiny bit what they were doing. And they sold factory direct. That's why they could be a lot cheaper than we were. We said from the beginning, we want to build a scalable company. And to build a scalable company, we need to have partners in the world who knows which customers it's worth approaching, knows which ones, you can give credit to. They can hold some stock, they can service, and they can promote a product in their own language. And I think that was as important as the technology side from us.
And getting those foundations right at the start has enabled you to grow, right? Much quicker potential.
Finding the right distributors. And that I would say, if there's anything I've underestimated, it's the time it takes to get the distribution up and running. And this is mainly because before us, there weren't any manufacturers who approached distributors. Will you sell my power boxes? Company so-and-so in France went to the guy who was the power guy in France and so on. And then suddenly our distributor comes and says, oh, you can buy these nice things from Sweden. Sweden, yeah, okay. Never heard of them. And also, most distributors, with one glaring exception, can't speak with the same authority as we can about the products, how they function, what problems they deal with. So that has been we've had to basically take our distributors to school, teach them how to, this is what you talk about and this is what you talk about. Well, I will say our very finest partner is a company in Germany, and that guy there, he's amazing. He's well known in the industry. Unfortunately, he's probably 5 years away from retirement, but it's due to him that we sell 3 times as much in Germany as we do in the UK.
This is obviously called the Business Takeaway Podcast. What do you think are your key takeaway lessons from your career in this industry, running Station Marts pre this? What do you think are your things that you would take away if you were going to start again? What are the things you've learned over this time that is your sort of takeaway lesson?
But if I was to start again, which I'm probably not going to do, I would say be very sure that the market is willing to pay for what you're offering. You might have something that is way better. It's like you can build a car with 5 wheels and it'll be absolutely unique. But does anybody want a car with 5 wheels? I don't think so. And, what are people actually willing to pay for in terms of functionality? And as with any product development, you have to start with thinking, what problem am I solving? Be razor sharp about that, because the trajectory changes. So if you have a little small change in the beginning, can have a big impact on the end. So you better nail it down. Talk to not just the big PRG Solotechs of this world, because they have a different situation than John's Lights and Sound in the basement of his mum. So you have to choose who you're going to work, who you're targeting. Be razor sharp on that, and then above all, be patient. The orders are not going to come rolling in next month, not even next year. And you make sure you have a lot of, fluff in your cash flow, because if you don't close orders for 2-3 months, you get really nervous, and then you start doing stupid things.
So strong cash flow and know your market is your
know your market and make sure the market knows you. So I wouldn't advise anybody in their 20s to try and break it into this industry. You don't come across as credible. I think you need to be in your 30s to be credible.
You need the midnight shifts at whatever venue, and the learning, getting your stripes, getting your stars on your badge or whatever, right?
Yeah. And network. Don't be afraid to go up to, the big names in the industry, because they're usually extremely nice people to deal with, And I was sitting next to Brian Croft at the TPI award some years back, and we had a fantastic discussion that ended with who came up with the first flight case. I still don't know the answer.
one of life's mysteries, right? Do you have a sort of golden rule you try and live by in this profession, in this industry? Is there something you stick to all the time that's your sort of motto for getting out of bed, or the why, or whatever? Is there a golden rule you have?
That I would say, don't do sloppy work. I'm a bit of a, what do you call it, grammar Nazi as well. I hate it when people mix English and Swedish, or Swedish or German, or English German, and when they skip propositions in sentences and things like that. It drives me mad. The quality of the information has to be as good as the quality of the product. Communicate. I think that's one thing we've sort of forgotten since social media, is that communication, it isn't just writing emails and posting stuff. You have to call people up and talk to them on the phone, and you have to go and see people. I'm thinking, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have time today. All right, next one. They're not going to be offended for you calling them. I would say rather, oh, nice of you to call. No, it's not a good time.
Yeah. And it goes back to that point we talked about trade shows. It's meeting people, it's seeing people. That's how we work, right?
Yeah. The last few trade shows I've done, I've rarely gotten into demos. I said, have you seen any products? Yeah. Okay. Well, show me. Okay. You want a demo? Yeah. Okay. So-and-so come over here and give him a demo. And then I go into the next, catch the next guy.
Yeah. A mutual friend, and an employee of yours used to tell me to take biscuits right? So you would turn up at places and you'd turn up with a pack of biscuits. You know who I'm talking about. Half the industry will know who I'm talking about. Turn up with some biscuits, and then there's no excuse for them to not entertain, at least to offer you a cup of tea with the biscuits. And then your cup of tea, as long as you drink slowly, that's at least half an hour. And it really works. It really does work.
I think, especially with the mid-sized companies, the decision on what to buy or what to get into is not taken by the top guy, because it's going to say, "Oh, we need 200 more hard edge moving lights. Hey, Johnny, what's the hot thing now?" And Johnny is the guy you've spoken to. He said, "Oh, Martin has this new fantastic thing. Okay, ask them to get me a quote for 200." You know, because he don't have time to think about technology unless he's really hard into it. He's worried about cash flow and staff issues and things.
The boring day-to-day stuff, right? So we've come to the end. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire. I say rapid fire. You know what I'm going to ask you. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions, and they're one-word answers. Is it Apple or Android for you?
Apple.
Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or X. Sorry, I should probably say X. Everyone knows Twitter, but X. LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook.
LinkedIn.
Beach or city break?
City.
Live in the town or live in the country?
Country. Go
first class or save the money? You can answer this as a business owner, or you can answer this as a personal way as well, whichever you prefer.
Difficult one. Depends on the length of the flight. I would say economy.
Are you a morning person or an evening person?
Evening person.
Do you think exercise is important?
Absolutely.
Do you do enough of it? That's the next question.
I do more now than I used to. That's for sure.
Innovate or just improve?
Innovate.
Challenge the status quo or not to challenge?
Challenge.
And I'm standing at a bar at a trade show. What is the drink I'm going to buy you?
I would say, that's a good one. I'm trying to remember what it's called. The dark British beer. What's it called again?
Was Guinness. You could have Guinness.
Yeah, Irish. Yeah, Guinness.
Guinness.
Yeah,
very good. Yeah. That was the one you took the longest to think about of all the questions I asked.
I can remember the name. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mats, for that. It's very insightful. Lots of interesting stories, lots of interesting things to talk through.
Thank you. Listenable from this.
Thank you very much for joining, and we'll catch up soon.